Deep beneath the soil of ancient burial sites, something extraordinary has been unearthed, bones so large they defy explanation. These oversized skeletal remains have ignited a firestorm of curiosity, whispers of a forgotten era when giants may have roamed the earth. From the towering Nephilim of the Bible to the colossal titans of Greek mythology, stories of these larger-than-life beings have echoed across cultures and centuries. But are these tales merely myths, or could there be a grain of truth hidden within them? Today, we're diving into the fascinating intersection of archaeology and legend to uncover what these ancient clues might reveal. Along the way, we'll explore groundbreaking discoveries, cultural narratives that span the globe, and the heated debates among scientists and historians. So, what do these massive bones really tell us? Could giants have truly walked the earth, or is there another explanation waiting to be uncovered? Join us as we unravel one of history's most enduring mysteries. Stories of giants are not confined to a single culture or corner of the world, they're everywhere. From the Sumerians of Mesopotamia to the Native American tribes of North America, nearly every ancient civilization has its own version of these towering beings. In Sumerian texts, giants are depicted as divine or semi-divine figures, often credited with building massive structures that defy human capability. Meanwhile, in the Americas, tribes like the Paiute speak of the Seetikar, a race of red-haired giants who were said to be both fierce warriors and formidable builders. Even in Europe, the Celts and Norse wove tales of giants into their mythologies, often portraying them as both adversaries and allies in their epic sagas. What's striking is how these stories share recurring themes. Giants are frequently linked to the creation of megalithic structures, like the mysterious stone circles of Britain or the massive walls of Sacsayhuaman in Peru. These tales often suggest that such feats of engineering were beyond the reach of ordinary humans, pointing to the giants as the architects. Similarly, many myths portray giants as warriors, locked in battles that shaped the fate of nations or even the world itself. In some cases, these stories serve as explanations for natural phenomena, mountain ranges, deep valleys, or even catastrophic events like floods or earthquakes. Could it be that these legends were attempts by ancient peoples to make sense of the world around them? Or is there something more to these tales? What's fascinating is how these myths often intersect with the discovery of unusually large skeletal remains. Across the globe, from the deserts of the Middle East to the caves of North America, reports of giant bones have surfaced, fueling speculation that these stories might have been inspired by real encounters or discoveries. Were ancient peoples stumbling upon the remains of an unknown species, or were they interpreting the bones of prehistoric animals through the lens of their own imagination? As we dig deeper, the line between myth and reality begins to blur, raising questions that challenge our understanding of history. Could these legends be more than just stories? Could they be fragments of a forgotten truth, waiting to be pieced together? Archaeology has long been the bridge between myth and reality, offering us a way to sift through the layers of legend to uncover what might lie beneath. By examining artifacts, skeletal remains, and ancient texts, archaeologists piece together the stories of our ancestors, stories that often blur the line between fact and folklore. But how do they do it? It's not as simple as digging up bones or unearthing old pottery. The process requires meticulous analysis, critical thinking, and often a bit of detective work. Take skeletal remains, for example. When archaeologists uncover bones that are unusually large, they don't immediately jump to the conclusion that they've found evidence of giants. Instead, they consider a range of possibilities. Could these bones belong to an extinct species, like a mammoth or a giant sloth? Are they the result of a rare genetic condition that caused abnormal growth in an individual? Or perhaps are they simply misidentified fragments that have been exaggerated over time? Each discovery is a puzzle, and archaeologists must carefully weigh every piece of evidence before drawing conclusions. Texts and inscriptions from ancient civilizations also play a crucial role in this process. These writings often provide context for the myths that have been passed down through generations. For instance, when a Sumerian tablet describes a giant figure overseeing the construction of a temple, archaeologists don't take it at face value. Instead, they look for physical evidence, tools, building techniques, or even the remains of the temple itself to see if the story aligns with what's been found. It's this combination of textual analysis and physical evidence that helps separate historical fact from imaginative fiction. But archaeology isn't a solitary endeavor. To fully understand the mysteries of the past, scientists often collaborate across disciplines. Geneticists might analyze DNA from skeletal remains to determine ancestry or health conditions. Geologists could study the soil layers to date artifacts more accurately. Even linguists and historians contribute by deciphering ancient languages or comparing myths across cultures. This cross-disciplinary approach is essential, especially when dealing with fragmented or incomplete evidence. After all, the past rarely leaves behind a clear, unbroken trail. Of course, interpreting these clues isn't without its challenges. Ancient texts can be cryptic, skeletal remains are often incomplete, and artifacts may have been moved or altered over time. Add to that the human tendency to embellish stories, and you have a complex web of information that requires careful navigation. Yet, it's these very challenges that make archaeology so fascinating. Every discovery has the potential to rewrite our understanding of history, or at the very least to add a new chapter to an ongoing story. As we turn our attention to specific archaeological findings, we'll see how these methods have been applied to some of the most intriguing discoveries related to giants. From massive bones unearthed in remote caves to ancient tools that seem too large for human hands, the evidence is as compelling as it is controversial. What do these findings tell us about the legends of giants? Could they be the key to unlocking a forgotten chapter of our past, or are they simply remnants of a world we've yet to fully understand? Let's find out. One of the most intriguing aspects of the giant legends is the physical evidence that seems to support them: oversized skeletal remains discovered in various parts of the world. Take, for instance, the findings in Lovelock Cave, Nevada. In the early 20th century, miners working in the cave unearthed strange artifacts and human remains of extraordinary size. Some of the bones reportedly measured over 8 feet in length, accompanied by tools and weapons that seemed far too large for ordinary humans to wield. The Paiute tribe, who had long spoken of the CT Ka, a race of red-haired giants, claimed these remains as proof of their ancestral stories. But here's where things get murky. While the discoveries sparked excitement, they also ignited skepticism. Were these bones truly evidence of giants, or could they have been misinterpreted or exaggerated? The Lovelock Cave findings aren't alone. Throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries, newspapers and journals were filled with reports of giant skeletons being uncovered across the United States. From Wisconsin to Ohio, claims of massive bones surfaced, often accompanied by dramatic headlines and vivid descriptions. One famous example comes from the mound builder sites, where large skeletal remains were allegedly found buried beneath ancient earthworks. These reports captured the public's imagination, but they also raised questions. Were these discoveries genuine, or were they the product of sensationalism and wishful thinking? Critics argue that many of these accounts were exaggerated or outright fabricated, tailored to sell newspapers or fuel local legends. even today, the debate over these skeletal remains continues. Some researchers suggest that the bones might belong to individuals with gigantism, a rare genetic condition that causes excessive growth. Others propose that the remains could be from prehistoric animals like mammoths or mastodons, which were misidentified by untrained observers. And then there's the possibility of hoaxes, deliberate attempts to create intrigue or profit from the fascination with giants. The truth is, without conclusive evidence, it's difficult to separate fact from fiction. Yet, the persistence of these discoveries across different cultures and time periods keeps the conversation alive. What's particularly interesting is how these findings often align with local myths and legends. In many cases, the giant skeletons are discovered in areas where stories of giants have been passed down for generations. This overlap between myth and physical evidence raises an important question. Could these legends have originated from ancient peoples encountering and interpreting unusual skeletal remains? Imagine a group of early humans stumbling upon the bones of a massive creature. Without the tools or knowledge to identify them, it's easy to see how they might have attributed these remains to a race of giants. Over time, these interpretations could have evolved into the myths we know today. But not all discoveries are so easily explained. Some finds, like the alleged giant skeletons of the mound builders, have left even seasoned archaeologists scratching their heads. These remains, often found in ceremonial burial sites, suggest a level of cultural significance that goes beyond mere misinterpretation. Could these have been revered individuals, perhaps leaders or warriors, whose stature was exaggerated in both life and legend? Or is there a deeper mystery at play, one that challenges our understanding of ancient history? As we sift through the evidence, it's clear that the discovery of oversized skeletons is a complex and controversial topic. While some cases can be explained by natural phenomena or cultural interpretation, others remain shrouded in mystery. What's undeniable, though, is the enduring fascination these findings hold. Whether they're evidence of ancient giants, misunderstood remains, or elaborate hoaxes, they continue to spark curiosity and debate. And that, perhaps, is the real power of these discoveries. They remind us that the past is far from fully understood, and that every new find has the potential to rewrite the stories we think we know. When we hear about giant skeletons, it's easy to let our imaginations run wild, but science offers us a way to ground these extraordinary claims in reality. One of the most plausible explanations for oversized skeletal remains is gigantism, a rare medical condition caused by an overproduction of growth hormone during childhood. Individuals with gigantism can grow to extraordinary heights, often surpassing 7 or even 8 feet tall. Historical records and medical studies have documented cases of gigantism, some of which align with the descriptions of giants found in ancient texts or folklore. For example, the famous Irish giant Charles Byrne, who stood over 7.5 feet tall in the 18th century, is a well-documented case that shows how real-life individuals could have inspired legends. Another condition, acromegaly, occurs when the body produces excess growth hormone in adulthood. While it doesn't result in the same extreme height as gigantism, it can cause significant changes in bone structure, leading to enlarged hands, feet, and facial features. This could explain why some ancient remains appear unusually robust or disproportionate. In both cases, these conditions are rare, but they provide a scientific basis for understanding how certain individuals might have stood out in ancient populations, leaving an impression so profound that their stories were passed down through generations. But not all giant skeletons can be attributed to medical conditions. In many cases, what appear to be oversized human bones might actually belong to animals. For instance, the remains of mammoths, mastodons, or even large dinosaurs have been misidentified as human skeletons in the past. Without the knowledge of modern paleontology, early explorers or local communities might have interpreted these bones as evidence of giants. This raises an important point. The way we interpret evidence is often shaped by the knowledge and beliefs of the time. Ancient peoples, lacking the scientific tools we have today, might have seen these bones and constructed stories to explain what they couldn't fully understand. Modern forensic techniques have revolutionized our ability to analyze skeletal remains. By examining bone density, DNA, and even microscopic wear patterns, scientists can determine not only the age and health of an individual, but also their diet, lifestyle, and even potential medical conditions. These methods allow us to separate fact from fiction, providing a clearer picture of what these remains truly represent. For example, isotopic analysis can reveal where a person lived and what they ate, while genetic testing can uncover hereditary conditions like gigantism or acromegaly. These tools are invaluable in debunking myths and confirming authentic discoveries. Yet, even with these advanced techniques, the allure of giant legends persists. Part of this fascination lies in the way ancient cultures interpreted their world. Imagine living in a time when the natural world was still largely mysterious. Encountering massive bones buried in the earth or embedded in rock formations would have been a profound experience. Without the framework of modern science, it's easy to see how these remains could have been seen as evidence of gods, giants, or otherworldly beings. These interpretations weren't just stories, they were attempts to make sense of the unknown, to find meaning in the remnants of a world that predated human memory. This intersection of science and storytelling is what makes the study of giant legends so compelling. While we now have the tools to analyze these remains with precision, we can also appreciate the creativity and curiosity of ancient peoples. Their myths and legends weren't just flights of fancy, they were reflections of their attempts to understand the world around them. And in some ways, our modern scientific inquiries are not so different. We, too, are piecing together fragments of the past, seeking to uncover truths that lie hidden beneath layers of time and interpretation. As we continue to explore these mysteries, it's worth remembering the importance of critical thinking. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and while the idea of ancient giants is undoubtedly captivating, it's essential to approach these stories with a healthy dose of skepticism. By combining scientific rigor with an appreciation for the human imagination, we can better understand not only the remains themselves but also the cultures that gave rise to these enduring legends. What we uncover may not always be what we expect, but it will always shed light on the rich tapestry of human history. Ancient texts have long served as windows into the minds of our ancestors, offering us glimpses of how they perceived the world around them. Among the most captivating themes in these writings are the stories of giant beings that straddle the line between the divine and the monstrous. Take, for instance, the Bible, where the Nephilim are described as the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men. These towering figures are often portrayed as both awe-inspiring and terrifying, embodying a mix of power and corruption. Similarly, in the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the oldest known works of literature, the hero battles Humbaba, a giant guardian of the cedar forest, described as a creature of immense strength and otherworldly presence. These narratives aren't just isolated tales, they weave giants into the very fabric of human history, suggesting that these beings played a significant role in shaping ancient beliefs and cultures. The Mahabharata, one of the greatest epics of ancient India, also features its own version of giants. The Rakshasas, often depicted as towering, fearsome beings, are central to many of the epic's most dramatic moments. Unlike the Nephilim or Humbaba, these giants are portrayed as malevolent forces embodying chaos and destruction. Yet, even within these darker depictions, there's a recurring theme. Giants are not merely physical entities but symbolic representations of humanity's struggles with power, morality, and the unknown. This duality, giants as both creators and destroyers, raises an intriguing question. Were these stories purely symbolic, or could they have been inspired by real encounters with exceptionally tall or strong individuals? One possibility is that these texts reflect ancient societies' encounters with people who stood out due to rare genetic conditions like gigantism or acromegaly. Imagine living in a time when the average height was far shorter than it is today. Encountering someone who stood 7 or 8 feet tall would have been nothing short of extraordinary. Such individuals might have been revered as demigods, feared as monsters, or even cast as adversaries in epic tales. Over time, their stories could have been embellished, blending fact with fiction until the line between the two became indistinguishable. Another angle to consider is how these giant narratives might have been influenced by the discovery of massive skeletal remains. Ancient peoples, lacking the scientific knowledge we have today, could have interpreted the bones of prehistoric animals or even large human ancestors as evidence of giants. In the Bible, for example, the story of the Nephilim is often linked to the discovery of oversized bones, which were seen as proof of their existence. Similarly, the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Mahabharata could have drawn inspiration from physical evidence that seemed to defy explanation. These interpretations, passed down through generations, would have taken on a life of their own, becoming the myths and legends we know today. What's fascinating is how these ancient texts align with archaeological findings. In many cases, the regions where giant myths originated are the same places where oversized skeletal remains have been discovered. For instance, the Middle East, home to the stories of the Nephilim and Humbaba, has yielded numerous reports of unusually large bones. Likewise, in India, where the Mahabharata was composed, there have been claims of giant skeletons unearthed in ancient burial sites. This overlap between myth and physical evidence suggests that these stories might have been rooted in real observations, even if they were later transformed into something more fantastical. As we examine these connections, it's important to remember that ancient texts serve multiple purposes. They're not just records of historical events, but also reflections of cultural values, fears, and aspirations. The giants in these stories often embody the unknown forces of nature, the divine, or even the darker aspects of human nature. By exploring these narratives, we gain insight not only into how ancient peoples viewed the world, but also into the ways they sought to explain and understand it. This interplay between myth and reality invites us to consider how our own interpretations of the past are shaped by the evidence we uncover. Just as ancient peoples might have seen giants in the bones they found, we too must navigate the balance between what we know and what we imagine. The stories of giants, whether rooted in fact or fiction, remind us that history is a living, evolving narrative, one that continues to captivate and inspire us to this day. One of the most enduring mysteries of ancient history lies in the sheer scale of megalithic structures, monuments so colossal that their construction seems almost superhuman. From the towering stones of Stonehenge to the precision-cut blocks of the Great Pyramid of Giza, these feats of engineering have puzzled archaeologists and historians for centuries. How did ancient peoples, without the aid of modern machinery or advanced mathematics, manage to move and position stones weighing dozens, sometimes even hundreds of tons? This question has given rise to a fascinating theory. Could giants, with their presumed strength and stature, have been the architects behind these monumental creations? Let's take a closer look at some of these structures. The walls of Sacsayhuaman in Peru, for example, are made up of massive limestone blocks, some weighing over 100 tons, fitted together with such precision that not even a sheet of paper can slide between them. The logistics of quarrying, transporting, and placing these stones are staggering, even by today's standards. Similarly, the Great Pyramid of Giza consists of approximately 2.3 million stone blocks, each weighing an average of 2.5 tons. Moving these blocks across vast distances and stacking them with such accuracy would have required not just skill but an extraordinary amount of manpower and coordination. For some, the idea that ordinary humans could achieve this without advanced technology strains credibility, leading to the suggestion that giants might have been involved. Proponents of the giant builder theory argue that these structures are simply too large and complex to have been built by people of average size and strength. They point to myths and legends from various cultures that attribute such constructions to giants. In the Andes, for instance, local folklore claims that the walls of Sacsayhuaman were built by a race of giants who could move stones as if they were pebbles. Similarly, in ancient Egypt, some texts describe the gods as towering figures who oversaw the construction of the pyramids. These stories, while often dismissed as mere folklore, have led some to wonder if they contain kernels of truth, hints of an ancient reality where giants played a role in shaping the world. But before we jump to conclusions, it's worth examining the evidence more closely. Modern experiments and archaeological studies have shown that ancient peoples were far more resourceful than we often give them credit for. Techniques like using sledges, rollers, and counterweights combined with large teams of laborers could have made the transportation of massive stones feasible. The ancient Egyptians, for example, are believed to have used a combination of ramps, levers, and sheer manpower to build the pyramids. Similarly, the builders of Stonehenge likely employed wooden sledges and ropes to move the massive sarsen stones across the landscape. These methods, while time-consuming and labor-intensive, demonstrate that ordinary humans were more than capable of achieving extraordinary feats. Still, the giant builder theory raises an intriguing question. Why do so many cultures attribute these structures to giants? One possibility is that these stories were born out of awe and admiration. Faced with the sheer scale of these monuments, ancient peoples might have found it easier to believe that they were the work of beings with superhuman abilities. In a world where the line between the natural and the supernatural was often blurred, attributing such achievements to giants could have been a way of making sense of the seemingly impossible. Another angle to consider is the symbolic significance of giants in these narratives. In many cultures, giants represent power, strength, and the ability to overcome insurmountable challenges. By associating these structures with giants, ancient peoples might have been expressing a deeper cultural value, the idea that greatness requires more than ordinary effort. In this sense, the giant builder theory isn't just about physical construction. It's about the human spirit's capacity to achieve the extraordinary. As we weigh these perspectives, it's clear that the giant builder theory exists in a fascinating space between myth and reality. While there's little scientific evidence to support the idea that giants were responsible for these structures, the theory invites us to think differently about the past. It challenges us to consider not just how these monuments were built, but why they continue to captivate our imagination. Whether these stories are rooted in fact or fiction, they remind us that the ancient world was a place of wonder, ingenuity, and boundless possibility. And perhaps that's the real legacy of the giant builder theory. It keeps the mystery alive, encouraging us to keep asking questions and exploring the unknown. Folklore is more than just a collection of stories. It's a living, breathing tapestry that weaves together the beliefs, fears, and aspirations of a culture. When it comes to giants, folklore has played an essential role in preserving and shaping these legends, passing them down through generations like heirlooms of the imagination. But why do these stories endure? What is it about giants that captivates us, even in the modern age? To answer these questions, we need to step into the world of oral traditions and explore how they've kept the myth of giants alive for centuries. In many cultures, giants serve as more than just larger-than-life figures. They're symbols of power, mystery, and the unknown. oral traditions from fireside tales to epic poems have carried these stories across time, often adapting them to fit the values and concerns of each era. For example, in Norse mythology, giants like Ymir and Jotun are central to the creation of the world, embodying primal forces of chaos and creation. These tales weren't just entertainment, they were a way of explaining the natural world and humanity's place within it. By personifying mountains, storms, or even the vastness of the sea as giants, ancient peoples could make sense of phenomena that were otherwise beyond their understanding. But folklore doesn't just reflect the world, it also shapes it. Stories of giants often served as cautionary tales, warning against hubris or the dangers of straying too far from societal norms. In some traditions, giants are portrayed as protectors, guarding sacred places or treasures. In others, they are antagonists, representing the challenges humans must overcome to achieve greatness. This duality, giants as both creators and destroyers, speaks to the complexity of human experience. They're not just characters in a story, they're mirrors, reflecting the hopes and fears of the societies that told their tales. One of the most fascinating aspects of folklore is its ability to evolve. Over time, stories of giants have been embellished, reinterpreted, and even merged with other legends. Take, for instance, the figure of Goliath from the Bible. While the text describes him as a towering warrior, later interpretations have transformed him into a near-mythical giant, complete with superhuman strength and a fearsome reputation. This evolution isn't accidental, it's a testament to the power of storytelling to adapt and resonate with new audiences. Each retelling adds layers of meaning, turning a simple narrative into a rich cultural artifact. The interplay between folklore and archaeology offers a unique lens through which to view these legends. While archaeologists uncover physical evidence, bones, tools, and structures, folklore provides the context that brings these discoveries to life. For example, the discovery of oversized skeletal remains in a particular region often aligns with local myths of giants. This connection suggests that ancient peoples weren't just inventing stories out of thin air. They were interpreting the world around them in ways that made sense within their cultural framework. Folklore, in this sense, becomes a kind of historical record, offering clues about how ancient societies understood their environment and themselves. Psychologically, the creation of giant myths can be seen as a way of coping with the unknown. In a world full of mysteries, earthquakes, floods, eclipses, attributing these events to giants gave ancient peoples a sense of control. By personifying the forces of nature, they could negotiate with them, appease them, or even defeat them through heroic acts. This need to explain the unexplainable is a deeply human trait, one that persists even in our modern, science-driven world. While we may no longer believe in giants, we still turn to stories to make sense of the complexities and uncertainties of life. Modern interpretations of giant legends differ from ancient ones in significant ways. Today, we approach these stories with a blend of skepticism and curiosity, using scientific methods to separate fact from fiction. Yet, the allure of giants remains, as evidenced by their frequent appearances in literature, film, and popular culture. From the towering titans of Attack on Titan to the gentle giants of the BFG, these figures continue to capture our imagination. In a way, they've become metaphors for the challenges and possibilities of the human condition, reminders that we are capable of both great achievements and profound mistakes. As we reflect on the role of folklore in shaping giant legends, it's clear that these stories are more than just relics of the past. They're living narratives, continually evolving to reflect the values and concerns of each generation. Whether seen as symbols of nature's power, cautionary figures, or simply larger-than-life characters, giants remind us of the enduring power of storytelling. They challenge us to look beyond the surface, to explore the deeper meanings hidden within the myths, and to consider how these ancient tales continue to shape our understanding of the world. And perhaps in doing so, they help us better understand ourselves. The stories of ancient giants have long captured our imagination, but not all claims about these towering beings are rooted in fact. Throughout history, pseudoscience and outright hoaxes have played a significant role in shaping and sometimes distorting our understanding of these legends. Take, for example, the infamous Cardiff giant, a 10-foot-tall petrified man unearthed in New York in the late 19th century. Crafted from gypsum and carefully aged to give the appearance of ancient stone, the giant was a deliberate hoax designed to attract crowds and make money. And it worked. Thousands flocked to see the supposed relic, convinced they were gazing at proof of a bygone race of giants. The Cardiff giant is just one of many examples where sensationalism and profit motives have muddied the waters of historical inquiry. Another case that stirred controversy was the giant of Castelnau, a set of oversized bone fragments discovered in France in the late 19th century. While some hailed the find as evidence of prehistoric giants, others quickly pointed out the lack of scientific rigor in the analysis. Skeptics argued that the bones could have belonged to large animals or even been misidentified due to the primitive methods of the time. Yet, despite these doubts, the giant of Castelnau became a cornerstone for those eager to believe in the existence of ancient giants. These cases highlight a recurring pattern. When evidence is presented without proper scrutiny, it can easily be misinterpreted or exploited to fit a desired narrative. So, why do these hoaxes and pseudoscientific claims persist? Part of the answer lies in human psychology. We're naturally drawn to the extraordinary, to stories that challenge our understanding of the world. Giants, with their larger-than-life presence, tap into this fascination, offering a tantalizing glimpse of a world that defies our everyday experiences. For many, the idea of giants isn't just a historical curiosity, it's a way of reimagining the past, of filling in the gaps left by fragmented evidence and incomplete records. This desire for wonder and mystery makes us susceptible to claims that, while compelling, often lack credible backing. But the impact of these hoaxes goes beyond mere fascination. They can also shape public perception in ways that hinder genuine scientific progress. When sensational claims dominate the conversation, they can overshadow legitimate research, leading to confusion and skepticism about the work of archaeologists and historians. This is why it's crucial to approach these stories with a critical eye, separating fact from fiction and recognizing the difference between credible evidence and cleverly crafted myths. After all, the pursuit of knowledge isn't just about uncovering the truth. It's about doing so in a way that respects the integrity of the scientific process. This isn't to say that all claims of giant discoveries are without merit. Some cases, while initially sensationalized, have led to important archaeological findings. The key is to evaluate each discovery on its own terms, using rigorous methods and peer-reviewed research to determine its validity. By doing so, we can ensure that our understanding of the past is built on a solid foundation, one that balances the allure of mystery with the necessity of evidence. As we navigate the complex landscape of giant myths, it's worth remembering that the line between fact and fiction isn't always clear. Hoaxes and pseudoscientific claims remind us of the importance of critical thinking, of questioning the extraordinary and seeking out the truth behind the stories. They also highlight the enduring power of these legends, their ability to captivate and inspire even in the face of skepticism. Whether rooted in fact or fueled by fiction, the tales of ancient giants continue to challenge us, inviting us to explore the boundaries of history, science, and imagination. And perhaps in doing so, they reveal as much about ourselves as they do about the past. The idea that ancient giants might have been extraterrestrial beings or the result of alien experimentation is a theory that pushes the boundaries of imagination. While it's a concept that has captured the attention of many, especially in popular culture, it's important to approach it with both curiosity and a healthy dose of skepticism. This fringe theory suggests that giants weren't just larger-than-life humans but could have been visitors from another world, or perhaps even the product of advanced alien technology. But where did this idea come from, and why does it continue to resonate with so many people? One of the primary reasons this theory has gained traction is its connection to ancient astronaut hypotheses, which propose that extraterrestrials visited Earth in the distant past and influenced human civilization. Proponents of this idea often point to ancient texts, artwork, and even megalithic structures as evidence of alien contact. For instance, some interpret the biblical Nephilim or the giant figures described in Sumerian texts as extraterrestrial beings who interbred with humans or shared advanced knowledge. Similarly, the massive scale of structures like the pyramids or Stonehenge has led some to speculate that such feats of engineering were beyond human capability and must have been guided by alien intelligence. Interestingly, this theory often intersects with claims about oversized skeletal remains. Some suggest that these bones could belong to hybrid beings, part human, part alien, created through genetic experimentation. This idea, while captivating, lacks concrete scientific evidence. Mainstream archaeology and biology offer no support for the existence of extraterrestrial giants, and most oversized remains can be explained through natural phenomena like gigantism, misidentified animal bones, or even hoaxes. Yet, the allure of the theory persists, fueled by its ability to blend mystery, science fiction, and a touch of the supernatural. Popular culture has played a significant role in keeping this idea alive. From blockbuster films like Prometheus to television shows like Ancient Aliens, the concept of ancient giants as extraterrestrial entities has been dramatized and romanticized. These portrayals often present the theory as tantalizingly plausible, weaving together fragments of mythology, archaeology, and speculative science. While entertaining, they rarely provide the critical scrutiny needed to separate fact from fiction. This has led to a kind of cultural feedback loop where the idea of alien giants becomes more accepted simply because it's repeated so often, even if it lacks empirical grounding. Despite its lack of scientific support, the extraterrestrial giant theory raises intriguing questions about how we interpret the past. It reflects a deep human desire to find meaning in the unknown, to connect the dots between disparate pieces of evidence in ways that feel satisfying, even if they aren't scientifically sound. In a way, this theory is a modern myth, a story we tell ourselves to make sense of the gaps in our understanding of history. And like all myths, it serves a purpose. It sparks curiosity, encourages exploration, and keeps us asking questions. As we shift our focus back to the archaeological evidence, it's worth considering how these fringe theories influence our perception of the past. While they may not hold up under scientific scrutiny, they remind us of the importance of critical thinking and the need to approach extraordinary claims with a balanced perspective. The study of ancient giants, whether grounded in science or steeped in speculation, is ultimately about seeking truth about the past, about ourselves, and about the stories we choose to believe. And perhaps that's the real value of these theories. They challenge us to think differently, to question assumptions, and to keep exploring the mysteries that lie just beyond our reach. The natural world has always been a source of wonder and mystery for humanity, and it's no surprise that the environment itself may hold clues to the origins of giant myths. One of the most compelling theories suggests that ancient peoples encountered the remains of long-extinct megafauna, massive creatures like mammoths, mastodons, and even dinosaurs, and interpreted their bones as evidence of giant humans. Imagine stumbling upon the fossilized skull of a woolly mammoth, its tusks curving like colossal weapons, or the femur of a giant sloth towering over any human leg bone. Without the context of modern paleontology, it's easy to see how these discoveries could have sparked tales of towering beings who once roamed the earth. This idea gains traction when we consider the geological and climatic conditions of ancient times. During periods of glaciation, for example, the shifting ice sheets often exposed fossils that had been buried for millennia. In regions like Siberia, where permafrost preserves the remains of prehistoric animals, indigenous peoples have long spoken of encounters with giant creatures. The Yakut people, for instance, have legends of the mammoth as a subterranean beast, a creature so massive it could reshape the landscape. While these stories may not directly reference giants, they reflect a broader pattern of interpreting unusual natural phenomena through the lens of myth and legend. But it's not just frozen tundras that hold these secrets. In warmer climates such as the Mediterranean or the Americas, ancient peoples could have encountered fossils of equally formidable creatures. The Cyclops myth from Greek mythology offers a fascinating example. Some scholars believe that the discovery of dwarf elephant skulls with their large central nasal cavity may have been misinterpreted as the remains of one-eyed giants. This misinterpretation highlights how the environment, both the physical landscape and the knowledge available at the time, shaped the way ancient peoples understood their world. Modern science has since clarified many of these misunderstandings, but the process of unraveling these mysteries wasn't straightforward. Early paleontologists like Georges Cuvier in the 18th century played a pivotal role in identifying fossils as the remains of extinct animals rather than mythical beings. Through careful study and comparison, they demonstrated that these bones belonged to creatures like mastodons, saber-toothed cats, and other megafauna, not giant humans. This shift in understanding was revolutionary, reshaping not only science but also the way we interpret ancient myths. What's particularly fascinating is how these discoveries have deepened our appreciation for the creativity of ancient cultures. While we now know that the giant bones were likely the remains of prehistoric animals, the stories they inspired reveal a profound human impulse to make sense of the unknown. In a world without the tools of modern science, myths served as a way to explain the unexplainable, to give form to the strange and often terrifying remnants of a lost world. These stories weren't just flights of fancy, they were attempts to connect with the past, to understand the forces that shaped the landscape and the lives of those who came before. As we continue to explore the intersection of climate, environment, and myth, it's worth reflecting on how our own interpretations of the past are shaped by the evidence we uncover. Just as ancient people saw giants in the bones of mammoths, we too must navigate the balance between what we know and what we imagine. The study of these myths isn't just about debunking old stories, it's about understanding the human capacity for curiosity, creativity, and connection. And perhaps in doing so, we can better appreciate the rich tapestry of history, woven from both fact and fiction, that continues to inspire us today. Giants have long held a unique place in the human imagination, serving as powerful symbols that transcend time and culture. In literature, art, and religion, these towering figures often embody the extremes of human experience, both the awe-inspiring and the terrifying. Take, for example, their dual role in mythologies around the world. In some traditions, giants are revered as protectors, guardians of sacred places or keepers of ancient wisdom. The Norse Jotun, for instance, are not always villains. Some, like Skadi, are complex figures who mediate between the realms of gods and humans. In other stories, giants are forces of destruction, representing chaos and the fragility of human order. The biblical Goliath, for example, is a symbol of overwhelming power that must be overcome. a reminder of the human capacity for resilience and triumph against seemingly insurmountable odds. This duality, giants as both creators and destroyers, reflects the ways societies grapple with their own values and fears. In many myths, giants are associated with natural phenomena like earthquakes, storms, or floods, personifying the uncontrollable forces of the world. By casting these forces as giants, ancient peoples could confront and even negotiate with them, turning abstract fears into tangible adversaries. At the same time, giants also represent the extraordinary, the possibility of greatness beyond human limits. This tension between fear and admiration is a recurring theme, one that speaks to the complexity of human emotion and the desire to find meaning in the unknown. Art and literature have further cemented the symbolic power of giants. In medieval European art, giants often appear as monstrous figures, towering over villages or battling knights, reflecting the societal anxieties of the time. In contrast, Renaissance art sometimes depicted giants as noble or tragic figures, echoing the era's fascination with human potential and its limitations. Writers like John Milton, in his epic poem Paradise Lost, used giants to explore themes of ambition and rebellion, portraying them as both awe-inspiring and doomed. These artistic representations reveal how giants have been adapted to reflect the concerns and aspirations of each era, serving as mirrors to the human condition. Religion, too, has embraced giants as symbols of divine power and human frailty. In Hinduism, the demon king Ravana, often depicted as a giant, represents the dangers of unchecked ego and desire. In contrast, the giantess Kali, though fearsome, is a protector, embodying the destructive yet necessary force of transformation. These religious narratives use giants to teach moral lessons, highlighting the consequences of hubris or the importance of humility. By personifying these abstract concepts, giants make them more accessible, allowing individuals to connect with deeper spiritual truths. The persistence of giants in modern media shows how these ancient symbols continue to resonate. From the towering titans of Attack on Titan to the gentle giants of the BFG, these figures still captivate audiences, adapting to reflect contemporary concerns. In video games, giants often serve as formidable bosses, embodying challenges that players must overcome. In film and television, they're used to explore themes of power, identity, and the human relationship with the natural world. Even in advertising, giants are employed to symbolize strength, reliability, or innovation, proving their enduring appeal. What's fascinating is how these modern interpretations often echo the themes found in ancient myths. The struggle against a giant, whether literal or metaphorical, remains a powerful narrative device, reflecting our ongoing efforts to confront challenges and assert our place in the world. At the same time, giants can also represent unity and cooperation, as seen in stories where humans and giants work together to achieve a common goal. This versatility is a testament to the depth and richness of the giant archetype, its ability to adapt and remain relevant across centuries. As we explore these cultural representations, it's clear that giants are more than just larger-than-life figures. They're reflections of our collective hopes, fears, and values. Whether as protectors or destroyers, they challenge us to confront the unknown, to question our assumptions, and to strive for greatness. In a world that often feels overwhelming, giants remind us of the power of stories to make sense of our experiences and to connect us with the past. And perhaps in doing so, they help us better understand ourselves. One of the most intriguing aspects of the giant debate revolves around oversized artifacts, tools, weapons, and other objects that seem far too large for ordinary humans to use. From massive stone hammers to swords that would require superhuman strength to wield, these objects have been cited by some as tangible proof that giants once walked the earth. But how reliable is this evidence, and what do these artifacts really tell us about the past? Let's start with the tools. In various parts of the world, oversized stone implements have been discovered, often in regions with strong ties to giant legends. For example, in the American Midwest, large stone tools have been unearthed near burial mounds, leading some to speculate that they were used by a race of giants. Similarly, in parts of Europe, oversized axes and hammers have been found, prompting questions about who could have wielded them. At first glance, these artifacts seem compelling, but a closer look reveals a more complex picture. The challenge with oversized tools lies in interpreting their purpose. While it's tempting to assume they were used by giants, alternative explanations abound. Some researchers suggest that these tools might have been ceremonial rather than practical, designed for rituals or symbolic displays rather than everyday use. Others propose that they could have been used collectively, requiring multiple people to operate them rather than a single, towering individual. And then there's the possibility that these tools were simply misidentified. Perhaps they were never meant to be handheld at all, but instead served as part of a larger mechanism or structure. Weapons present a similar puzzle. Swords and spears of extraordinary size have been found in various archaeological contexts, often accompanied by claims that they belong to giants. The famous giant sword from medieval Europe, for instance, is a massive blade that has fueled speculation for centuries, but again, context is key. In many cases, oversized weapons were likely ceremonial or symbolic, used to convey power and authority rather than for actual combat. The idea of a giant wielding such a weapon might make for a dramatic story, but it's not always supported by the evidence. Verifying the authenticity of these artifacts is another hurdle. Many oversized tools and weapons lack clear provenance, meaning their origins and historical context are uncertain. Without this information, it's difficult to determine whether they were truly used by giants or if they're the result of later misinterpretation or even deliberate hoaxes. The Cardiff giant, for example, wasn't just a skeletal hoax, it also inspired the creation of fake artifacts designed to support the narrative. This highlights the importance of rigorous analysis and the dangers of jumping to conclusions based on surface-level observations. So, how do these artifacts fit into the broader narrative of giant legends? One possibility is that they reflect a cultural fascination with the extraordinary. Ancient peoples, much like us, were drawn to objects that defied the norm, whether through their size, craftsmanship, or symbolic meaning. These artifacts might have been created to inspire awe, to tell a story, or to connect with the divine. Over time, as the stories were passed down, the line between fact and fiction blurred, turning these objects into relics of a mythical past. Another angle is that these artifacts represent a kind of historical memory, a way for ancient cultures to remember and honor individuals who stood out in some way. Perhaps they were used by exceptionally tall or strong people, whose feats became the stuff of legend. Or maybe they were symbols of collective achievement, representing the strength and ingenuity of an entire community rather than a single giant. In this sense, the artifacts aren't just evidence of giants, they're windows into how ancient peoples understood their own history and identity. As we consider these possibilities, it's important to approach the evidence with both curiosity and caution. While the idea of giant artifacts is undeniably captivating, it's essential to separate the stories from the science. By examining these objects through the lens of archaeology, history, and cultural studies, we can gain a deeper understanding of their significance, not just as potential proof of giants, but as reflections of the human imagination and our enduring fascination with the extraordinary. And perhaps, in doing so, we can uncover new layers of meaning in the legends that continue to captivate us. Media has always been a powerful force in shaping our perceptions of the past, and the topic of ancient giants is no exception. Over the years, books, documentaries, and social media have played a significant role in keeping the legend of giants alive, often blurring the line between fact and fiction. From sensationalized documentaries to viral social media posts, the idea of giants has been amplified, reaching audiences far beyond the confines of academic circles. But how much of this is grounded in truth, and how much is simply entertainment? The answer lies in the delicate balance between captivating storytelling and the responsibility to present accurate information. Take, for example, the rise of documentaries exploring ancient mysteries. Shows like Ancient Aliens and similar programs often weave together fragments of mythology, archaeology, and speculative science to create compelling narratives. While these shows are undeniably entertaining, they sometimes stretch the evidence to fit a predetermined narrative, leaving viewers with more questions than answers. The same can be said for books and articles that delve into the topic of giants. Many authors, aiming to capture readers' imaginations, lean heavily on dramatic interpretations of archaeological finds, sometimes at the expense of scientific rigor. This approach has undoubtedly contributed to the enduring popularity of giant myths, but it also raises important questions about the role of media in shaping our understanding of history. Social media has further amplified this phenomenon, turning ancient giants into a modern-day fascination. Platforms like YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram are filled with videos and posts claiming to show proof of giants, from oversized skeletal remains to ancient artifacts. While some of these posts are well-meaning attempts to share intriguing discoveries, others are outright hoaxes designed to generate clicks and views. The viral nature of social media means that these claims can spread rapidly, often without the necessary context or critical scrutiny. This creates a challenge for viewers trying to separate fact from fiction, as the line between credible research and sensationalism becomes increasingly blurred. Yet, it's important to recognize that media isn't solely responsible for perpetuating these myths. Public fascination with giants is deeply rooted in our love for mystery and the unknown. Stories of larger-than-life beings tap into something primal within us, a desire to believe in the extraordinary, to imagine a world where the impossible might be possible. Media, in many ways, simply reflects this fascination, giving it a platform and amplifying its reach. But with that platform comes a responsibility. Content creators, whether they're producing documentaries, writing books, or sharing posts on social media, have the power to shape public perception. This power should be wielded carefully, with an emphasis on accuracy and integrity. The challenge lies in striking a balance between education and entertainment. There's no denying that stories of giants are captivating, and there's value in using that allure to engage audiences with history and archaeology. But it's equally important to ground these stories in evidence, to provide context, and to acknowledge the limits of what we know. This doesn't mean stripping the stories of their magic. It means enriching them with a deeper understanding of the facts. For example, a documentary that explores the discovery of oversized skeletal remains could go beyond the sensational headline to discuss the scientific process of analyzing such finds, the challenges of interpreting ancient evidence, and the cultural significance of giant myths. This approach not only entertains but also educates, fostering a more informed and curious audience. As we reflect on the role of media in perpetuating giant myths, it's worth considering the broader implications. In an age where information is more accessible than ever, the responsibility to present accurate and thoughtful content has never been greater. Content creators have the opportunity and the obligation to inspire curiosity while maintaining a commitment to truth. By doing so, they can help bridge the gap between myth and reality, encouraging viewers to explore the mysteries of the past with both wonder and critical thinking. And perhaps, in the process, they can remind us that the real magic of history lies not in the extraordinary claims, but in the extraordinary truths waiting to be uncovered. Archaeology and mythology might seem like two entirely different worlds, one rooted in the tangible evidence of the past, the other in the rich tapestry of human imagination. Yet, when we look closely, we find that these two fields are deeply intertwined, each shedding light on the other in fascinating ways. Archaeology has the power to challenge mythological narratives, revealing the historical truths that may have inspired them. At the same time, it can also support these stories, offering physical evidence that aligns with ancient tales. But to truly understand this dynamic, we need to consider how evidence is interpreted within its cultural and historical context, a process that's as much about understanding people as it is about uncovering artifacts. Take, for instance, the myth of the Cyclops from Greek mythology. For centuries, this one-eyed giant was thought to be purely a product of imagination. But when archaeologists discovered the fossilized remains of dwarf elephants in the Mediterranean, a compelling theory emerged. The large central nasal cavity in these skulls, which could easily be mistaken for a single eye socket, might have inspired the Cyclops legend. This discovery doesn't just debunk the myth, it enriches it, showing how ancient peoples might have interpreted the natural world around them. By examining the evidence within its cultural framework, we gain a deeper appreciation for how myths are born and how they evolve. Yet, archaeology doesn't always contradict mythology. In some cases, it can provide surprising support for ancient narratives. The story of Troy, once thought to be purely fictional, was given new life when archaeologists uncovered the ruins of a city that matched the descriptions in Homer's Iliad. Similarly, discoveries of oversized skeletal remains in regions with strong giant legends like the Americas or the Middle East have led some to wonder if these myths might have been inspired by real encounters or discoveries. While these findings don't prove the existence of giants, they do suggest that ancient peoples were observing and interpreting their world in ways that resonated deeply with their cultural beliefs. The key to understanding this interplay lies in context. Every artifact, every bone, every ancient text was created within a specific cultural and historical moment. To interpret them accurately, archaeologists must consider not just what they find, but how it fits into the broader story of the people who left it behind. For example, a massive stone tool might be seen as evidence of giants if viewed in isolation. But when placed within the context of its time, perhaps as part of a ceremonial object or a communal project, it takes on a very different meaning. This approach allows us to see myths not as mere fictions, but as reflections of how ancient societies understood their world and their place within it. This intersection of archaeology and mythology is particularly relevant when it comes to the legends of giants. By examining these stories through the lens of cultural context, we can begin to unravel why giants appear in so many different traditions. Were they inspired by the remains of prehistoric animals, misinterpreted through the lens of ancient knowledge? Or do they represent something deeper, a way for ancient peoples to grapple with the mysteries of the natural world, to explain the unexplainable, or to express their awe at the sheer scale of human achievement? The answers aren't always clear, but the process of exploring these questions is what makes the study of giants so compelling. As we consider how archaeology and mythology intersect, it's worth reflecting on what this tells us about the human experience. Myths aren't just stories, they're windows into the values, fears, and aspirations of the cultures that created them. Archaeology, in turn, gives us the tools to open those windows wider, to see the world as our ancestors might have seen it. Together, these disciplines remind us that the past is not a static collection of facts, but a living, evolving narrative, one that continues to inspire and challenge us. And perhaps in exploring the legends of giants, we're not just uncovering the mysteries of the past, but also discovering something profound about ourselves. By approaching these stories with both curiosity and critical thinking, we can begin to see how the threads of myth and evidence are woven together into a richer understanding of history. This balanced perspective not only deepens our appreciation for the past, but also invites us to consider how the stories we tell today might shape the way future generations see our world. And in that sense, the giants of legend, whether fact or fiction, continue to loom large, not just in our history, but in our imagination. The fascination with giants is more than just a historical curiosity. It's a psychological phenomenon that spans cultures, generations, and even our own personal imaginations. From the earliest fairy tales whispered to children to the elaborate conspiracy theories that captivate adults, giants have always held a unique grip on our collective psyche. But why? What is it about these towering figures that continues to captivate us, even in an age dominated by science and reason? The answer lies in the way giants embody the unknown, the extraordinary, and the limits of human understanding. Think back to your earliest memories of giants. Perhaps it was Jack climbing the beanstalk to confront a fearsome giant, or the gentle, misunderstood figure of the BFG. These stories aren't just entertainment, they are foundational lessons about courage, curiosity, and the power of imagination. As children, giants represent the ultimate challenge, a force so much larger than ourselves that overcoming them feels like a triumph against the impossible. This early exposure to giants as symbols of power and mystery lays the groundwork for a lifelong fascination, one that evolves as we grow older but never truly fades. But the appeal of giants isn't limited to childhood. For adults, giants often take on a more complex role, becoming symbols of the unknown or the unexplained. In conspiracy theories and fringe narratives, giants are frequently invoked as evidence of hidden truths, whether they're ancient civilizations, extraterrestrial contact, or lost chapters of human history. These modern interpretations tap into a deep-seated desire to make sense of the world, to find patterns and meaning in the chaos. Giants, with their larger-than-life presence, become a kind of shorthand for the extraordinary, a way to explore ideas that challenge our understanding of reality. This psychological pull is rooted in our relationship with the unknown. Humans are naturally drawn to mysteries, to questions that don't have easy answers. Giants, by their very nature, represent something beyond the ordinary, something that defies explanation. They embody the idea that there's more to the world than meets the eye, that the past and even the present might hold secrets we've yet to uncover. This sense of wonder and curiosity is what drives us to keep exploring, to keep asking questions even when the answers are elusive. The role of imagination in shaping these stories can't be overstated. Myths and legends are, at their core, products of human creativity, ways to explain the unexplainable, to give form to the formless. Giants, as both literal and metaphorical figures, offer a canvas for this creativity. They can be protectors or destroyers, heroes or villains, depending on the story being told. This flexibility allows them to adapt to the needs and concerns of each generation, reflecting the hopes, fears, and values of the societies that create and retell their tales. In modern times, this fascination with giants has influenced how we interpret ancient evidence. When oversized skeletal remains or massive tools are discovered, it's easy to let our imaginations fill in the gaps, to see giants where science might see something more mundane. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's a testament to the power of stories to shape our perceptions and to keep us engaged with the past. But it also highlights the importance of critical thinking, of balancing our sense of wonder with a commitment to evidence and reason. As we continue to explore the mysteries of the past, it's worth reflecting on why giants hold such a powerful place in our imagination. They remind us that the world is full of wonder, that there are still stories waiting to be uncovered and questions waiting to be answered. Whether as symbols of the unknown or as figures in ancient myths, giants challenge us to think bigger, to push beyond the boundaries of what we know. And perhaps in doing so, they help us better understand not just the past, but ourselves. This enduring appeal isn't just about the giants themselves, it's about what they represent, the infinite possibilities of the human imagination and our unending quest to make sense of the world around us. And in that sense, the giants of legend, whether real or imagined, continue to walk beside us, inspiring curiosity and wonder with every step. Throughout history, giants have loomed large not just in folklore and mythology, but also in the sacred texts of many religions. These towering figures often carry profound theological significance, serving as symbols of divine power, human frailty, or moral lessons. In the Bible, for example, the Nephilim are described as the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men. These beings are portrayed as both awe-inspiring and deeply flawed, embodying a mix of divine connection and human corruption. Their presence in the narrative raises questions about the boundaries between the divine and the mortal, as well as the consequences of transgressing those boundaries. Are these depictions meant to be taken literally as accounts of actual beings, or are they symbolic representations of humanity's struggles with power and morality? The same question arises in other religious traditions. In Hinduism, the demon king Ravana, often depicted as a giant, represents the dangers of unchecked ego and desire. His immense size and strength are matched only by his hubris, which ultimately leads to his downfall. Similarly, in Norse mythology, the Jotun are giants who embody chaos and primal forces, often clashing with the gods in epic battles that shape the cosmos. These stories aren't just about physical conflict, they're metaphors for the eternal struggle between order and chaos, creation and destruction. By personifying these abstract concepts as giants, religious narratives make them relatable, offering lessons that resonate across generations. But what about the literal interpretation? Could these stories have been inspired by real encounters or discoveries? Some scholars suggest that ancient peoples, encountering oversized skeletal remains or other unusual phenomena, might have woven these observations into their religious texts. For instance, the Bible's mention of the Nephilim is often linked to the discovery of unusually large bones, which were interpreted as evidence of these legendary beings. This blending of myth and physical evidence raises an intriguing possibility that religious texts, while deeply symbolic, might also contain echoes of historical or natural events. In this way, giants become a bridge between the spiritual and the tangible, offering insights into how ancient cultures made sense of their world. The intersection of religious narratives and archaeological evidence is where things get particularly fascinating. In regions where giant myths are prevalent, such as the Middle East or the Americas, discoveries of oversized skeletal remains often align with local religious traditions. For example, in the Levant, where the Nephilim are said to have lived, there have been reports of unusually large bones unearthed in ancient burial sites. Similarly, in the Americas, indigenous legends of giants often correspond with archaeological findings of oversized tools or skeletal fragments. These overlaps suggest that religious stories may have been shaped, at least in part, by real-world observations. But they also highlight the importance of context, how ancient peoples interpreted these discoveries within their cultural and spiritual frameworks. The theological significance of giants extends beyond their physical descriptions. In many religious texts, giants serve as cautionary figures, embodying the consequences of hubris, disobedience, or moral failure. The story of Goliath, for instance, isn't just about a giant's defeat, it's a lesson in courage, faith, and the triumph of the underdog. Similarly, the giants of Norse mythology, while often portrayed as adversaries, also play a crucial role in the creation and maintenance of the cosmos. Their interactions with the gods reflect the delicate balance between opposing forces, reminding us that even chaos has a place in the grand design. These narratives, whether symbolic or literal, offer timeless lessons about the human condition and our place in the universe. As we explore these religious depictions, it's clear that giants are more than just larger-than-life figures. They're mirrors reflecting the values, fears, and aspirations of the cultures that created them. Whether as symbols of divine power, warnings against pride, or metaphors for cosmic balance, giants continue to captivate our imagination and challenge our understanding. By examining these stories alongside archaeological evidence, we gain a richer appreciation for how ancient peoples interpreted their world and expressed their deepest beliefs. And perhaps in doing so, we uncover not just the mysteries of the past, but also the enduring power of stories to shape our understanding of the world. As European explorers set sail to distant lands during the Age of Exploration, they brought with them not just ships and maps, but also their own preconceived notions of the world. Among these was a fascination with giants, a fascination that would be amplified by encounters with indigenous peoples and their rich mythologies. In many indigenous cultures, stories of giants were deeply woven into the fabric of their beliefs, often tied to the land, creation myths, or spiritual practices. For European colonizers, these tales were both intriguing and perplexing, leading to a complex interplay of cultural appropriation and misinterpretation that would reshape the European understanding of giants. One of the most striking examples of this cultural exchange occurred in the Americas, where Spanish conquistadors encountered the Aztec and Inca civilizations. Indigenous legends spoke of towering beings who built monumental structures or roamed the earth in ancient times. These stories, when filtered through the lens of European imagination, were often distorted to fit existing narratives. The Spanish, for instance, interpreted these tales as evidence of a lost race of giants, a concept that aligned with their own biblical and classical traditions. This reinterpretation wasn't just a matter of curiosity, it served a political purpose, reinforcing the colonizers' belief in their own superiority and justifying their conquests as part of a divine or historical plan. But the impact of colonialism on giant myths wasn't limited to misinterpretation. In some cases, indigenous stories were outright appropriated, stripped of their cultural context, and repurposed to suit European agendas. For example, the Paiute legend of the Sea Tikar, a race of red-haired giants, was co-opted by European settlers and sensationalized in newspapers and books. These retellings often exaggerated or altered the original stories, turning them into tales of monstrous beings rather than the nuanced figures they were in indigenous traditions. This process of cultural appropriation not only distorted the myths but also marginalized the voices of the people who had created and preserved them. The ethical implications of this are profound. When we study ancient myths, especially those from colonized cultures, we must confront the ways in which they have been shaped by power dynamics and cultural bias. The stories of giants, once rich with meaning and context, were often reduced to curiosities or commodities, stripped of their spiritual and cultural significance. This raises important questions about how we approach these narratives today. Are we preserving them as they were originally intended, or are we perpetuating the same patterns of appropriation and misinterpretation? This intersection of colonialism and myth also highlights the broader issue of how history is written and by whom. The European fascination with giants wasn't just about the stories themselves, it was about controlling the narrative, shaping how the past was understood and remembered. By reframing indigenous myths to fit their own worldview, colonizers effectively erased or overshadowed the voices of the people who had lived with and preserved these stories for generations. This legacy continues to influence how we perceive and study ancient myths, reminding us of the importance of approaching these narratives with care and respect. As we reflect on the impact of colonialism on giant myths, it's clear that these stories are more than just relics of the past. They're living narratives that carry the weight of history, culture, and identity. By examining how they've been shaped by colonial encounters, we gain a deeper understanding of the complexities of cultural exchange and the ethical responsibilities that come with studying ancient traditions. It's a reminder that the stories we tell about the past are never neutral. They're shaped by the perspectives and power structures of those who tell them. And perhaps in acknowledging this, we can begin to see these myths not just as tales of giants, but as windows into the human experience with all its triumphs, struggles, and enduring resilience. As we stand on the brink of a new era in scientific exploration, the tools at our disposal are more powerful than ever before. Advances in DNA analysis and 3D imaging are revolutionizing the way we study the past, opening up possibilities that were once the stuff of science fiction. These technologies hold the potential to shed new light on the legends of giants, offering insights that could either confirm their existence or finally lay these myths to rest. Imagine being able to sequence the DNA of an oversized skeletal fragment to determine whether it belonged to a human with a rare genetic condition, a prehistoric animal, or something entirely unexpected. Similarly, 3D imaging allows us to reconstruct ancient bones and artifacts with astonishing precision, revealing details that might have been overlooked by earlier researchers. The future of giant research is not just about uncovering new evidence, it's about re-examining what we already have with fresh eyes and cutting-edge tools. One of the most exciting prospects is the ability to analyze ancient genomes. By extracting and sequencing DNA from skeletal remains, scientists can gain unprecedented insights into the lives of individuals who lived thousands of years ago. For instance, if oversized bones are found to belong to someone with gigantism or acromegaly, it could explain how these conditions might have inspired giant myths in the first place. On the other hand, if the DNA reveals something entirely different, perhaps an unknown species or a previously undocumented population, it could reshape our understanding of human history. The possibilities are as thrilling as they are limitless, offering a chance to finally answer questions that have puzzled us for centuries. Another groundbreaking development is the use of 3D imaging and virtual reconstructions. These technologies allow researchers to create detailed digital models of skeletal remains, tools, and even entire archaeological sites. For example, a fragmented giant femur could be scanned and virtually reassembled, providing a clearer picture of its original size and structure. This not only aids in identifying the remains, but also helps us understand how these individuals might have moved, lived, and interacted with their environment. It's like stepping into the past with a new set of eyes, one that sees beyond the limitations of time and decay. But while these advancements offer incredible potential, they also come with challenges. The process of extracting and analyzing ancient DNA is delicate and fraught with complications, from contamination risks to the degradation of genetic material over time. Similarly, 3D imaging requires access to specialized equipment and expertise, which may not always be available in regions where giant legends are most prevalent. These hurdles remind us that the pursuit of knowledge is never straightforward, but they also highlight the importance of collaboration and innovation in overcoming them. What's perhaps most intriguing about the future of giant research is the way it bridges the gap between science and storytelling. As we uncover new evidence, we're not just testing the validity of ancient myths, we're also exploring the human impulse to create them. Whether these legends are rooted in fact or fiction, they reveal something profound about our relationship with the unknown. They remind us that history is not just a collection of facts but a tapestry woven from our curiosity, creativity, and desire to make sense of the world. As we look ahead, it's clear that the mystery of giants is far from solved. Each new discovery raises as many questions as it answers, keeping the allure of these legends alive. Will future research confirm the existence of giants, or will it debunk these myths once and for all? The answer lies in the hands of scientists, historians, and storytellers alike, each contributing their unique perspective to the ongoing quest for understanding. And perhaps, in the end, the greatest discovery won't be about giants at all. It will be about the enduring power of human imagination and our unrelenting drive to explore the unknown. As we delve deeper into the mysteries of ancient giants, it's important to pause and consider the ethical dimensions of this research. Exploring these legends isn't just about uncovering facts or debunking myths. It's also about navigating the complex relationship between science and cultural heritage. How do we approach stories that are deeply rooted in the beliefs and traditions of communities, especially when they intersect with controversial or sensitive topics? This question lies at the heart of the ethical considerations surrounding the study of giant myths, and it's one that demands thoughtful reflection. One of the primary challenges is balancing scientific curiosity with cultural respect. For many indigenous cultures, stories of giants aren't just folklore, they're integral parts of their identity, history, and spiritual practices. When researchers investigate these narratives, they risk reducing them to mere curiosities or, worse, distorting them to fit a particular narrative. This can lead to a form of cultural appropriation, where the original meaning and significance of these stories are lost. The ethical responsibility, then, is to approach these myths with humility and sensitivity, recognizing that they belong to the communities who have preserved them for generations. This tension becomes even more pronounced when archaeological findings are involved. For example, the discovery of oversized skeletal remains in regions with strong giant legends can spark excitement among researchers, but it can also raise concerns within local communities. Are these remains being treated with the respect they deserve, or are they being exploited for sensational headlines? The ethical approach requires collaboration with indigenous groups, ensuring that their voices are heard and their cultural heritage is protected. This isn't just about following protocols, it's about fostering a relationship built on trust and mutual understanding. Another ethical consideration is the potential for pseudoscience to overshadow legitimate research. The topic of giants, with its blend of mystery and allure, is particularly susceptible to sensationalism. Misinterpreted evidence, exaggerated claims, and outright hoaxes can muddy the waters, making it difficult to separate fact from fiction. This not only undermines scientific credibility, but also risks perpetuating harmful stereotypes or misinformation. Researchers have a responsibility to present their findings accurately, avoiding sensationalism and ensuring that their work is grounded in rigorous methodology. At the same time, it's important to acknowledge the role of public fascination in driving this research. The stories of giants captivate our imagination, and that curiosity can be a powerful force for learning and exploration. The challenge is to channel that interest in a way that is both ethical and educational. By presenting the evidence transparently, addressing the complexities of interpretation, and engaging with diverse perspectives, researchers can create a dialogue that enriches our understanding without compromising integrity. This balance between curiosity and responsibility is at the core of ethical research. It's about recognizing that the pursuit of knowledge is not an end in itself, but a process that must be guided by respect and care. In the case of giant myths, this means honoring the stories that have been passed down through generations while also seeking to uncover the truths they might hold. It's a delicate dance, one that requires both scientific rigor and cultural sensitivity. As we continue to explore these mysteries, let's remember that the stories of giants are more than just relics of the past. They're part of a living tradition, one that connects us to the people and cultures that came before us. By approaching this research with both curiosity and respect, we can ensure that these narratives continue to inspire and enlighten, not just as tales of giants, but as reflections of our shared human experience. And perhaps in doing so, we can find a way to honor both the science and the stories, weaving them together into a richer understanding of the world we inhabit. This thoughtful approach not only deepens our appreciation for the complexities of history, but also reminds us of the importance of empathy and ethical responsibility in all our explorations, whether they lead us to giants or to other wonders of the ancient world. As we journey through the fascinating world of ancient giants, it's essential to pause and consider the role of skepticism in this exploration. Extraordinary claims, like those surrounding the existence of giants, naturally spark curiosity and wonder. But they also demand a critical eye, a willingness to question, test, and verify. After all, the line between myth and reality is often blurred, and it's only through rigorous inquiry that we can hope to uncover the truth. Skepticism doesn't mean dismissing ideas outright. It means approaching them with a healthy dose of doubt and a commitment to evidence. When we encounter claims of massive skeletal remains or oversized tools, our first instinct might be to marvel at the possibility. But a scientific approach encourages us to dig deeper. Could these bones belong to an extinct animal? Might they be the result of a rare genetic condition? Or are they simply misinterpreted fragments, exaggerated over time? By asking these questions, we ensure that our conclusions are grounded in facts, not just fascination. This mindset is especially important when dealing with historical and archaeological evidence. Ancient texts and folklore often describe giants in vivid, larger-than-life terms, but these stories were shaped by the cultural and scientific understanding of their time. Without the tools of modern archaeology, ancient peoples might have interpreted unusual findings in ways that aligned with their beliefs. For instance, the discovery of mammoth bones could easily have been seen as proof of giants, especially in a world where such creatures were unknown. Today, we have the benefit of advanced technology and methodologies to test these interpretations, but even so, the process requires careful analysis and an open mind. One of the challenges in studying giant legends is the prevalence of pseudoscience and sensationalism. Over the years, numerous hoaxes and exaggerated claims have muddied the waters, making it difficult to separate credible evidence from fiction. The infamous Cardiff giant is a prime example, a carefully crafted hoax that fooled thousands into believing they were seeing a petrified giant. These instances remind us of the importance of critical thinking and the need to scrutinize extraordinary claims with the same rigor we apply to any scientific investigation. But skepticism isn't just about debunking myths, it's also about uncovering the truths that might lie beneath them. By applying a scientific lens to these stories, we can explore how they originated and why they endure. For example, the discovery of oversized skeletal remains in regions with strong giant legends suggests that these myths might have been inspired by real encounters or observations. Even if the remains don't belong to literal giants, they reveal something profound about how ancient peoples interpreted their world. In this way, skepticism becomes a tool for understanding, not just a means of dismissal. As we reflect on the key points of this video, it's clear that the legends of ancient giants are a rich tapestry woven from myth, history, and human imagination. From the towering Nephilim of the Bible to the colossal builders of megalithic structures, these stories have captivated us for centuries. Archaeology and science offer us a way to explore these narratives, separating fact from fiction while appreciating the cultural and historical significance they hold. Whether giants walked the earth or not, their legends remind us of our enduring fascination with the extraordinary and our unrelenting quest to uncover the mysteries of the past. By embracing skepticism and critical thinking, we can navigate these mysteries with both curiosity and care, ensuring that our search for truth is as respectful as it is rigorous. And perhaps in doing so, we'll find that the real giants aren't the towering figures of legend, but the stories themselves. Stories that continue to inspire, challenge, and connect us across time and cultures. Throughout history, the legends of ancient giants have captivated our imaginations, weaving together threads of myth, archaeology, and cultural storytelling. From the towering Nephilim of the Bible to the colossal builders of megalithic structures, these tales have transcended time and culture, leaving us with more questions than answers. Today, we've journeyed through the fascinating intersection of science and folklore, exploring how oversized skeletal remains, ancient texts, and even geological phenomena might have inspired these enduring myths. We've seen how archaeology can both challenge and support these stories, offering a glimpse into the ways ancient peoples interpreted their world. At the same time, we've grappled with the ethical considerations of studying such narratives, especially when they intersect with the beliefs and traditions of indigenous cultures. The allure of giants lies not just in their size, but in what they represent: the unknown, the extraordinary, and the limits of human understanding. Whether as symbols of divine power, cautionary figures, or metaphors for natural forces, giants have served as mirrors reflecting the hopes, fears, and values of the societies that created them. And while modern science has provided us with tools to analyze and interpret these legends, the mystery surrounding them remains. Are these stories rooted in encounters with real, larger-than-life individuals? Do they reflect ancient peoples' attempts to explain the unexplainable, or are they simply products of our collective imagination, passed down through generations as a testament to the power of storytelling? As we wrap up this exploration, it's worth reflecting on the importance of approaching such mysteries with both curiosity and skepticism. The search for truth isn't just about uncovering facts, it's about understanding the context, the culture, and the human impulse to create meaning. Giants, whether real or imagined, remind us that history is a living narrative, shaped by the perspectives and experiences of those who tell it. They challenge us to think critically, to question assumptions, and to embrace the unknown with a sense of wonder. So, will we ever uncover the truth behind these legends, or will the giants of ancient lore remain one of history's greatest enigmas? The answer may lie somewhere in the balance between science and storytelling, between the evidence we uncover and the stories we choose to believe. What's certain is that the fascination with giants will continue to inspire us, driving us to explore, to question, and to imagine. What do you think? Are giants merely the stuff of myth, or could there be a grain of truth hidden within these ancient tales? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. And if you enjoyed this journey into the mysteries of the past, don't forget to subscribe for more explorations into the fascinating world of historical enigmas. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep imagining the extraordinary.